Hello everyone, welcome to Unacademy's Let's Crack UPSC CSE English YouTube channel. Now, the topic that I'll be teaching today is current affairs. Now, this current affairs series is an ongoing series which is taught by me, where I will teach you about topics which are very important for UPSC Prelims, which is very important for upcoming UPSC Prelims examination. Now, this is day 2 of this particular series. So, if you wish to follow these videos regularly, don't forget to subscribe to Unacademy YouTube channel. And if you want to get notification from this particular channel, don't forget to click that bell icon. Now, before going on to the video itself, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. See, my name is Aravind. I've completed my BE Mechanical Engineering in 2015. I have almost 3 years of experience in teaching UPSC students, and I have experienced all stages of UPSC civil services. My specialization subjects include polity, international relations, as well as current affairs. Now, that's my introduction done with. Now, let me give you a brief introduction on why you have to subscribe to Unacademy platform. See, Unacademy is the largest online platform in India. That itself provides you with a lot of advantage. One important advantage is when you go to traditional offline institutions. Yeah, so for example, if you are going to any offline institutions, if you want to learn geography, you can learn geography only from one person who is employed by that particular institution. But in case of Unacademy, since Unacademy is a pan-India platform, it provides you access to top educators all over India. So if you want to learn geography, you can learn from number of people. So based on your preferences, you can learn from number of people. That's a choice Unacademy provides to you. Okay. Now this is the primary advantage when it comes to Unacademy platform. Apart from that, based on students' request, Unacademy recently has introduced a new type of platform called as iconic subscription. So Unacademy right now has two types of platform. One is Plus and another one is iconic. So what is the difference between Plus as well as iconic, and what is the need for having these two platforms in Unacademy? See, in Plus platform, teachers from all over India, they will come together and they will share their knowledge with you. They will share their knowledge with students. But for exams like UPSC, which requires studying for almost 1 to 2 years, it's a very laborious process, and to prepare for this much amount of time, you require constant guidance from experienced people. Okay, now that guidance will be provided under Iconic subscription platform. Okay, for preparing UPSC, you'll be preparing for around 1 to 2 years. Now, when you are preparing for this amount of period, you require constant guidance from experienced people, whether you are studying going in the right path or not, whether you are making any mistakes or not. So, the things that experienced mentors will analyze you and they will give their feedback to you. Okay? Now, that platform will be provided by Iconic platform. In Iconic platform, some experienced members who have very good experience when it comes to clearing UPSC, and even some have cleared UPSC itself. These people will be given, they will be personally assigned to you for guiding you through the whole process. Okay? So that's the difference between Plus as well as Iconic. Plus is all about teaching, Iconic is all about mentoring. So how is Iconic different from Plus? This is just the same that I have explained. Teaching is all about knowledge. That teaching is provided by Plus. Mentoring is all about experience. They will share their experience with you and they will guide you based on their experience. That is provided in Iconic. That I mentioned before itself. So if you want to subscribe to Iconic platform, how can you do that? So if you want, whenever you are going to subscribe subscription page, you will be provided with two options. One is Plus and another one is Iconic. Okay. So if you wish to subscribe to Iconic platform, click on that Iconic platform and then click continue with Iconic, and the amount charged by Iconic platform will be somewhat higher compared to Plus, because Unacademy is assigning with a personal matter. So that's why the amount charged by Iconic platform will be somewhat higher compared to Plus platform. Now the main advantage with Unacademy is, see, the amount charged by Unacademy is very less compared to other traditional offline institutions. Not only that, if you are using my code Aravind V, on top of small amounts that Unacademy is charging you, you'll get about 10% offer as well. Okay. So for example, if you are subscribing to 12 months platform, you have to pay for 36,000. Okay, you have to pay for 36,000. But if you're using my code Aravind V, you get to pay around 32,400 instead of 36,000. So you are getting around 10% offer. So don't forget to use my code Aravind V whenever you are subscribing to Unacademy subscription platform. Okay. Now that's introduction done and away with. Let's move on to the class itself. Now the topics that I will be teaching you today includes nutrient-based subsidy rates. Now in this topic we will look at what is the need for having nutrient-based subsidy rates and what are the advantages of having nutrient-based subsidy rates, and then what type of problem we are dealing with. So all these things we will look into this particular topic. The next particular topic we'll be looking is changes in Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, Prevention of Money Laundering Act was passed in 2002, which was amended recently. In this topic, we will look at what are the amendments that was passed in this original act. So that's the topic we'll be looking in this video. The next one is 5-star movement. Now this 5-star movement is ongoing in Italy. So we will look into what are the origins of this 5-star movement and in what way this 5-star movement is very, very important from prelims perspective. And then we will look at this Genome India initiative. In this particular topic, we will look at what is genome sequencing and what is the significance of genome sequencing and what are the advantages as well as disadvantages when it comes to genome sequencing. And lastly, we will look at academic locomotion now. So this is a particular floating nuclear power plant. In this particular topic, we will look at what are the advantages of having floating nuclear power plant and which countries are currently pursuing this technology called as floating nuclear power plant, and what are the advantages of having this particular technology. Okay. Now let's move on to the topic itself. The first topic that we will be looking today is nutrient-based subsidy rates. See here, fertilizer subsidy is the second largest subsidy in India apart from food subsidy. Fertilizer subsidy occupies around it's the second largest subsidy that the government of India provides for the people of India apart from food subsidy. So rationalizing this fertilizer subsidy is very important if we want to achieve the target of 3% of fiscal deficit target, which is set by medium term fiscal policy framework. Clear? Now, when it comes to fertilizers, there are number of different types of fertilizers. Fertilizers like urea, potassium as well as phosphatic based fertilizers, DOM fertilizers. There are a number of different types of fertilizers. But in India, when it comes to fertilizer subsidy, before fertilizer subsidy was given only for urea. Fertilizer subsidy was given only for urea. When it comes to urea sale, a fixed monthly rate was fixed by the government of India. So any industry which is manufacturing urea can sell urea only at this fixed monthly rate. So if that fixed monthly rate is less than their profit, that loss will be covered by the government in the form of subsidies. Clear? So when urea is only given subsidy, what will happen? Obviously, urea price will be less compared to other forms of fertilizer. So farmers started purchasing urea more and more, and they used urea indiscriminately. Now, because of that, nutrients which are highly present in urea like nitrogen, potassium, these elements became very high in Indian soils. Because of that, soil's fertility becomes reduced. What is the purpose of using fertilizer? So that we can enhance the fertility of particular soils. But after indiscriminate use of urea, the fertility of soil became very less because the nutrients, nitrogen as well as phosphate increased manyfold. Okay, so that's why we wanted to rationalize this subsidy rates. So that's why instead of giving subsidy for one particular type of fertilizer, we have started giving subsidy based on nutrients. So if in urea there is nutrient for nitrogen as well as potassium, we will give subsidy based on this particular nutrient. So if in PNK subsidy for fertilizer, subsidy is phosphate is there, we'll give subsidy based on that particular nutrient, not based on that particular fertilizer concern. Okay, so this nutrient based subsidy rates aims to rationalize subsidy rates. Okay, so according to this nutrient based subsidy rates, Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs have approved a particular rate. Now, what is that particular rate? That particular rate will be 18.90 per kilogram of nitrogen, 15.21 per kilogram of phosphorus, 11.21 per kilogram of potassium, and 3.56 per kilogram of sulfur. So, based on this nutrient-based subsidy rates, the expanded expenditure for the release of subsidy for PNK fertilizer during 2019 to 20 period will be around 22,875 crores. Okay, so this is the background with respect to nutrient-based subsidy rates. Now, government provides fertilizers, urea, 21 grades of PNK fertilizers to farmers at subsidized prices. In accordance to its farmer-friendly approach, the government is committed to ensure availability of PNK fertilizers to farmers at affordable prices. To make sure that PNK fertilizer also available to farmers at subsidized prices, that's the reason NBS scheme was used. Now, the subsidy on PNK fertilizers is being governed by NBS scheme from 2010 onwards itself. Yeah. Since then, now you can ask this question: since this NBS scheme is being followed from 2010 itself, then what is the need for reintroduction of this particular scheme? Now, in 2019, apart from PNK based fertilizers, nutrient based subsidy is also being covered for urea based fertilizer as well. Okay. So apart from 2019, NBS scheme is being used for providing subsidies both for PNK based fertilizer as well as urea based fertilizers. Now the next one is the nutrient based subsidy scheme. Now what are the particulars of this particular scheme? See, this particular scheme is being implemented from April 2010 by Department of Fertilizers under Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. Now, this particular information is very important from prelims point of view. Why? Because if UPSC is asking this question, fertilizers is a subject under Ministry of Agriculture. Now, students will think that since fertilizers comes under the domain of agriculture, they will think that okay, obviously the natural option would be Ministry of Agriculture, but that's clearly wrong. Fertilizers come under the Department of Fertilizers, which will come under Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. Clear? Now, under nutrient-based subsidy scheme, a fixed amount of subsidy decided on an annual basis is provided to each grade of subsidized phosphatic as well as potassic fertilizers depending on its nutrients content. Yeah. That's how this scheme works. Now, we will do an analysis of this particular scheme. Now, this nutrient-based subsidy scheme was sought to deregulate subsidy on non-urea fertilizers and expected to reduce the subsidy burden substantially. While nutrient-based subsidy scheme certainly did not lead any decline in subsidy on fertilizer, it did not lead to worsening of soil quality along with shortages and price increases to all three types of major nutrients, namely nitrogenous, phosphoric as well as potassic fertilizers. See, undesirable outcome has been the change in fertilizer mix because of indiscriminate urea usage. Because of indiscriminate urea usage against the recommended ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus as well as potassium ratio of 4:2:1. In 2013, the ratio in Indian soils was around 8.2 to 3.2 to 1. So it clearly shows that because of indiscriminate urea usage, the amount of nitrogen content in our Indian soil has increased dramatically. Okay. Now, what are the disadvantages of this increased nitrogen in Indian soils? Whenever rains pours in this particular, whenever rains pour in these particular fields, rains gets mixed up in this nitrogen, and this water will immediately join the nearby stream of a river. It will join into nearby stream of a river. So this increased nitrogen content in a particular river will also cause algal bloom. This increased nitrogen concentration, which is coming from runoff rainwater into streams of river, This will increase nutrient contents in particular river water. This will cause algal bloom. Now there are a number of detrimental effects of algal bloom, like lack of decrease in fish population and decrease in water quality, decrease in penetration of sunlight into fresh water. All these things are side effects of increased algal blooms, which is a cause of increased nitrogen concentration in river water. Clear? So that's why we have to reduce the amount of urea that is being administered in Indian soils. For that rationalization, nutrient-based subsidy scheme was introduced. Now, considering that the fertilizer subsidy is the second biggest subsidy after food subsidy, the inaction on the part of government might adversely affect the physical health as well as soil health of this country. Since fertilizer prices follow the trend in international petroleum prices, the only way to reduce the subsidy bill is to reduce the dependence on imports and increase domestic production. Yeah, if we give subsidy based on flat rates in urea, what will happen? Since domestic production cost is much higher compared to import cost, what will they do? They will import fertilizer more and more rather than producing fertilizer in our country itself. So we have to rationalize this whole process so that we are dependent on a fertilizer which is produced from Indian nation, not from importing from other nations. While rationalizing fertilizer subsidy across nutrients may be a short-term, immediate solution to the problem, the need of the hour is to have a policy framework that incentivizes domestic production of fertilizers. So even though NBS scheme can give a short-term fix with this skewed demand as well as production needs, the need of the hour is to have a broad policy which addresses the need to increase our domestic production to meet our fertilizer demand. Now, the biggest challenge when it comes to Indian agriculture is to change the pattern of fertilizer usage itself. Now, because of this subsidy which was given to urea alone, farmers have been accustomed to use urea more and more. Now, to change this pattern of administering urea more and more, it is very difficult. Okay, now, clearly, government has to prepare a policy to change the behavior of urea administration itself. Now, this not only involves the revamping and re-energizing the extension services, but also changing the NBS suitably to remove the price distortion caused by it. Okay. Now, what does nutrient-based subsidy scheme do? Even though NBS incentivizes farmers to use other types of fertilizers, even NBS incentivizes farmers to use particular type of nutrient fertilizers. Okay. In NBS, what types of nutrients are being subsidized? Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur. But in soil, apart from macronutrients, there are a number of micronutrients which is required for soil health. Now, NBS is subsidizing farmers only for administering macronutrients, not for micronutrients. So, even though NBS can address our soil health for the short term, for the long term, we have to come up with a policy which changes the behavior of farmer, not only for administering both macronutrients but also for micronutrients. Clear? That's the need for bringing a policy for changing the behavior of farmers itself. Now, this is a question. This is a UPSC Prelims question based on nutrient-based subsidy scheme, which we will solve now. Now, the question that we have asked in this particular question is, the nature of the question is not correct. So we have to identify which statements in this particular question are not correct. The first statement is, this particular scheme is being implemented by Ministry of Agriculture. As I mentioned before, I stress this particular point. Whenever it comes to fertilizer comes under the domain of Department of Fertilizers. Department of Fertilizers comes under the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. Clear? So this statement is wrong. Now look at the next statement. Under nutrient-based subsidy scheme, a fixed amount of subsidy decided on an annual basis is provided on each grade of subsidized phosphatic as well as potassium fertilizers depending on its nutrient content. Now this particular statement is correct because that's the core of this NBS scheme itself. Now this scheme was sought to deregulate subsidy on urea fertilizers. That statement is correct. So the answer is A, 1 only. Okay. So I hope this particular topic was very clear to you. If you have any doubts with regards to this particular topic, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll try to solve those doubts. Okay. So excuse me. Now let's move on to the next topic. The next topic that we'll be looking today is Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, in this particular topic, we will look at what are the recent amendments that have been brought forth to Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and we will look at what is the concept of money laundering. Sorry, what is the concept of money laundering, and what are the prevalent routes people use to launder money. So all these things, all these issues, we will look into this particular topic. Now, recently, Union Government has issued a notification on certain changes in Prevention of Money Laundering Act, which will further empower Enforcement Directorate in tackling cases of money laundering. Okay, now, what are those proposed amendments? Now, this amendment seeks to treat money laundering as a standalone crime. Clear. Now, before, under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, money laundering was seen as a predicate offense. What is the meaning of predicate offense? Which means that money laundering is a result of parent crime. Like, for example, money laundering is a result of terrorism. Money laundering is a result of child trafficking. So, money laundering was not treated as a separate crime, but it was treated as a crime which was part of a bigger crime. So, that is called as a concept of predicate offense or scheduled offense. Now, because money laundering was defined as a predicate offense, tackling money laundering cases was very difficult when it comes to enforcement directorate. Now, to solve this issue, this money laundering right now, based on this amendment, is being treated as an independent crime, not an predicate offense. Yeah. Also, this particular amendment expands the ambit of proceeds of crime to those properties which may directly or indirectly be derived or obtained as a result of any criminal activity relatable to the scheduled offense. Okay, so it expands the contours based on the crime. It expands the contours of crime activity when it comes to money laundering. Okay, so any money which is obtained directly or indirectly from money laundering can be prosecuted. Okay. The most crucial amendments are the deletion of provisions in subsections 1 of section 17, search and seizure, as well as section 18 of search of persons. Now, these provisions require the prerequisite of FIR or charge sheet by other agencies that are to be authorized to prove the offences listed under PMLA schedule. So, for example, a person has indulged himself in money laundering scheme. Okay. Now, if a person has been indulged in money laundering scheme, which organization is tasked with dealing in money laundering? Enforcement Directorate. So, Enforcement Directorate will deal with all cases with respect to money laundering. So, to solve these cases effectively, what powers should the Enforcement Directorate have? They should have the powers to search and seize persons associated with money laundering. But in previous act, what happened was that without obtaining an FIR from other agencies, Enforcement Directorate did not have the power to search as well as seize persons related to money laundering. Now, this was an obvious defect. Because of that, number of money laundering cases was delayed indefinitely. So, this problem was rectified in this particular amendment. Okay. Now, apart from these two provisions, an explanation is also added to the section 45 that clarifies that all prevention of money laundering related offences will be cognizable as well as non-bailable. Now, what is the meaning of cognizable and non-bailable? The meaning of cognizable means that a person who is connected with money laundering can be arrested without a warrant. And if a person is being arrested under money laundering crime, his crime is non-bailable. He cannot obtain bail from judiciary. Okay. and also therefore enforcement directorate will be empowered to arrest an accused without a warrant subject to certain conditions. Another vital amendment makes the concealment of proceeds of crime, possession, acquisition, use, projecting as an untainted money or claiming as an untainted property as independent and complete offences under act. So not only it is expanding the definition of money laundering, it is also including number of offences which which will arise out of money laundering into the ambit of PMLA. So if you are having some black money with you, okay, what will you do? You will try to convert this black money into white money. This is called as money laundering. Okay. Now, to convert this particular black money into white money, it involves help from a lot of people. A number of people will help you to convert this money from black money to white money, and some certain people will pretend that this money is, even though this money is black money, they will say that this money is white people, and they will use this particular money. So all these related crimes associated with money laundering has been criminalized under this particular amendment. Okay. Also, Section 72 will now give power to the center to set up an interministerial coordination committee for interdepartmental, interagency coordination for operational as well as policy level cooperation. So, it is empowering central government to set up interministerial cooperation so that they can tackle money laundering cases in a pan India level very easily. Okay. Now, what is money laundering? So far, we have looked at what are the amendments proposed to Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, what is the concept? What is the deed of money laundering? See, money laundering involves a process of making large amounts of money generated by criminal activity. Yeah, now those criminal activities include drug trafficking, terrorist funding. Now, these funding it will appear to have come from legitimate source. So even though they have received this funding from terror financing, drug trafficking, child trafficking, all those illegal means, these funds will be made to appear that these funds have come from legitimate source. This is called as money laundering. Now, criminal activities such as illegal arms sales, smuggling, drug trafficking, prostitution rings, insider trading, bribery, computer fraud schemes, these activities will provide large amounts of profits. Now, these profits will generate large amounts of money, which needs to be converted from black money to white money. So that's how money laundering comes into being. So thereby, it creates incentive for money launderer to legitimize the ill-gotten gains through money laundering. The money so generated is called as dirty money, and the money laundering is a process of conversion of dirty money to make it appear as legitimate money. Bulk cash smuggling, cash incentive business, trade-based laundering, shell companies and trust, round tripping, bank capture, gambling, real estate, black salaries, fictional loans, hawala, false invoicing are some of the most common methods of money laundering. So, what are the ways based on which a person can money launder? These are the ways based on which a person can money launder. Okay. Now, what is the legal framework in India to deal with money laundering? In India, the specific legislation in dealing with money laundering is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Now, this particular law was enacted to combat money laundering in India, and it has three main objectives. Now, what are those three main objectives? Those include to prevent and control money laundering, that's the first objective. To provide for confiscation and seizure of property obtained from laundered money, that's the second objective. To deal with any other issue connected with money laundering in India. As I mentioned before, money laundering, the money for money laundering comes from number of illegal activities. So this act has the objective of dealing with money laundering. It also has the objective of dealing with parent crime. Clear? Now, under Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the Enforcement Directorate is empowered to conduct a money laundering investigation. So, money laundering investigation will come under the ambit of Enforcement Directorate. Apart from the provisions of Prevention of Money Laundering Act, there are other specialized provisions such as RBI, SCBA, as well as Insurance Regulation Development Authority, Anti-Money Laundering Regulation. So, apart from this particular act, all these independent organizations such as RBI, SCBA, as well as IRDA has certain money laundering regulations. Okay. Now, what is this body called as Enforcement Directorate? So we will learn about this body called as Enforcement Directorate. Now, Directorate of Enforcement is a specialized financial investigation agency under the Department of Revenue, which comes under Ministry of Finance, Government of India. Now, it was formed on May 1 of 1956 as an enforcement unit in Department of Economic Affairs for handling exchange control laws violations under FERA Act of 1947. Now, in the year 1957, this unit was renamed as Enforcement Directorate. Now, Enforcement Directorate enforces two types of laws. Those two types of laws include Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999 and Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Now, this is the information regarding Enforcement Directorate. Now, this particular information can be very useful for UPSC Prelims. Now, let's take a look at question which is related to Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, with reference to Enforcement Directorate, which of the following statements is or not correct? So, the nature of this particular question is not correct. Clear? So, let's take a look at this particular statements and let's analyze which of these statements are not correct. Now, look at the first statement. It's a specialized financial investigation agency under Department of Financial Services in Ministry of Finance. See, under Ministry of Finance, there are a number of different types of departments. Now, what is the job of Department of Financial Services? It's in the name itself. The job of Department of Financial Services is to provide economic services for Ministry of Finance. So, they will prepare budget, all those things. Yeah? So, as I mentioned before in my previous slide, Enforcement Directorate will come under Department of Revenue, not under Department of Financial Services. So, the first statement is wrong. Now, let's take a look at the second statement. Second statement says that it enforces Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999 and Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Now, this particular information is correct. I mentioned in my previous slide itself, there are two laws which come under the ambit of the Enforcement Directorate. One is FEMA, the next one is PMLA. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the third statement. Third statement says that it is not empowered to arrest an accused without a warrant under Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. Now, before this particular amendment, this statement was correct. Since this amendment was passed, this statement is currently wrong. So, what is the answer? The answer is D, 1 and 3 only. Yeah, so this is that's it with regards to this amendments to PMLA Act. I hope everything was crystal clear to you. If you have any doubts with regards to this particular topic, drop in the comments with your doubts and I will try to answer those doubts. Clear? Now, let's take a look at the next topic. The next topic that we will be looking today is 5-star movement. Now, what is this 5-star movement? See, the reason why I have taken this particular topic is because Italy's Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte has announced his resignation on the account of collapse of his coalition between 5-star movement and League Party. Now, because of this particular news, today we will be looking at 5-star movement and what are the genesis of this 5-star movement and what is the importance of this particular political party. Now, in August 2019, League Party withdrew its support by stating that its political goal was to challenge European Union's fiscal rules. Clear? Now, this clearly shows that there are a number of parties which are on rise in European governments, which are increasingly challenging the status of European Union, and League Party is also one such party which is challenging the European Union's fiscal rules. Now, what is the problem with European Union's fiscal rules? See here, European Union is a union of number of European countries: Germany, Italy, France, and then UK, not UK right now, Austria. All these countries came together and they formed a economic as well as political body called as European Union. Now, under European Union, there is a monetary union, but there is no fiscal union. which means that even though currency for all these currency as well as central bank for all these countries is the same bank, these countries will follow different types of fiscal rules. For example, Germany has a strong fiscal consolidation policy, which means that their debt is very low. But Greece has a higher amount of fiscal deficit. Now, because of these differences between the fiscal rules of various governments under the European Union, in 2008, when financial sector broke down, Greece at the time borrowed a lot of money from European Central Bank. Now, because of this financial crisis, Greece was unable to make those repayments to European Union. Okay. Now, because of that, Greece economy collapsed, and the European Union Europe's Central Bank imposed a policy called as austerity. And imposed a policy called as austerity. Now, what is the meaning of this austerity policy? According to these austerity policies, number of government programs, number of money spent on the amount of money which was spent on government programs was cut drastically. Because of the social security schemes in Greece suffered greatly. Ordinary people in Greece suffered very much. So, number of political parties, as a result of this imposition of austerity, started to challenge the fiscal rules of European Union. Now, one such party in Italy is called as League Party. Now, League Party recently broke away from the coalition of five-star women, citing that they wanted to effectively challenge the fiscal rules of European Union, but we cannot challenge based on the coalition of five-star women. Clear? So that's the gist of this breakdown in coalition between five-star women and League Party. Now, what's so special about this five-star movement? See, this five-star movement is a populist movement which was started in 2009 as an internet-based group, becoming one of the most voted parties for all time in Italy. Okay. So it started primarily as an internet-based group, becoming as a political party. Now, this particular party was started by Beppe Grillo and Gianroberto Casaleggio through their social networking site called as meetup.com to bring people together to campaign on local issues and then to field candidates for their elections. Yeah, so this meetup website was started so that they can congregate number of people based on similar political beliefs and field candidates to the Italian elections. In 2013, it became the second largest political party and they eventually came to power in 2018. See, this five-star movement marks the significance of internet as well as social media-based political parties. Now, it shows that internet as well as social media can spur a new type of political parties. Now, five-star movement is certainly an example of that phenomenon. Five-star movement used internet to form political party, one without organization, money, ideology, or headquarters. Okay. So it kind of broke what are the traditional requirements to become a political party. So if you want to start a political party, one thing which you require is money, and then you should have a ideology. Only based on that ideology you can recruit people. And MS5 for the first time, five-star movement for the first time broke all those traditional rules of political party, forming a political party. Also, it adds a new dimension to the concept of populism. See, what is the meaning of this particular word, populism? Now, this populism is a political approach that strives to appeal to ordinary people who feel that their concerns are disregarded by establishment elite groups. Yeah. So, populism is a type of political tool, political philosophy, which appeals to these disenfranchised people. Okay, for example, especially because of this corona pandemic, number of people will be unemployed. Number of people will lose their jobs. So what happens when unemployment rate as well as poverty level rises in a country? People will become very angry. Yeah. So if people are becoming very angry, what will happen? There will be a number of political parties which will try to tap this anger for their political gains. Now that concept is called as populism. Yeah. So now that's it with regards to this particular topic. Now, what type of questions can be asked on this particular topic? Questions like recently, especially from 2016, there is a trend in UPSC to start questions regarding certain types of political movements. For example, last year or so, there was a question regarding umbrella movement. Yeah. So Questions regarding particular movements from around the world are being asked in UPSC Prelims. So it is very important to know something about 5-star movement. Okay? Now I hope this particular topic was very helpful for you. If you have any doubts regarding this particular topic, you can ask in the doubt section. Okay? Now, the next topic that we'll be looking today is academic Lomonosov. Now, this academic Lomonosov is a Russian ship that has a floating nuclear units. Clear? Now, what is the purpose of this floating nuclear units? The purpose of this floating nuclear units is to provide power to a particular any type of island or any type of ship that is being attached to this particular ship. Okay. Now this academic Lomonosov started its first journey from Russian port of Murmansk to the Arctic town of Tevek despite its opposition from environmental groups. Okay. Now this is the world's only floating power unit and the world's northernmost nuclear installation. Now in this particular topic we will look at what is the need for having floating nuclear power plant and what are the concerns with regards to floating nuclear power plant. Now, what is the significance of floating nuclear power plant? Now, this floating nuclear power plant is suited for powering remote areas and island states that require stable as well as green sources of energy. Now, it will power the extraction of natural resources in Arctic region. See, due to global warming, increasingly Arctic region is being melted, and Russia wants to tap this mining potential in this Arctic region. So to power extraction of minerals from this Arctic region, we require power, right? Now this power will be provided by these floating nuclear power plants. The portable nuclear power plants will help to reduce emissions such as carbon dioxide, thus helping mitigating climate change. Okay. Now, apart from Russia, China as well as US are also working on so-called sea-based nuclear power plants, and France has also explored the possibility. Now, apart from Russia, what is the need for China as well as USA to have these floating nuclear power plants? Now, in case of USA, these floating nuclear power plants are very important when it comes to powering their overseas powering their overseas military establishments. So to power this overseas military establishment, right now US military is using diesel generators, but that's not sustainable in the long run. So because of that, USA is currently exploring the possibility of using floating nuclear power units, and also China is also rigorously exploring the possibility of having floating nuclear power units, mainly to construct artificial islands in South China Sea. Yeah, if you follow news regularly, you might have come across news that China, for the past few years, have been artificially constructing islands so that they can claim more sea territory out of South China Sea. Now there's an ongoing territory dispute between Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, and China due to the territorial demarcation in South China Sea. Now, to increase their territorial claims, right now China is propping up artificial islands. Now, apart from propping up these artificial islands, we are also maintaining some military establishment. Now, to give power to these military establishments, we require power source. Right now, this power source will be provided by floating nuclear power units. Now, even though it has a number of users, environmental group Greenpeace has called this plant Chernobyl on ice, because there is a possibility that because of natural disasters, because of over flooding, all these issues, it's a possibility that there can be a possibility of nuclear contamination, nuclear leakage. If nuclear leakage happens in the middle of the sea, the entire sea ecosystem in that area will gets permanently damaged. Yeah. So that's why environmental group Greenpeace has called this particular plant as Chernobyl on ice. Now let's move on to the last topic of today, Genome India initiative. See, India is planning to launch its first human genome mapping project. Now, in this genome mapping project, India will be using a technology called as gene sequencing. India will be using a technology called as gene sequencing. Now, what is this technology? Gene sequencing. See, in every cell of human body, there are around 23 chromosomes. In every cell, there are around 23 chromosomes. Each chromosome has a DNA. Now, what is the shape of DNA? The DNA has a kind of double helix structure, which means that it has a very spiral structure. Now, if you arrange this double helix structure in a flat plane, it will have a shape of ladder. It will have a shape of ladder. Clear? Now, there are four types of proteins in DNA. These four types of protein are called as ATCG. Clear? ATCG. So, A type of protein can attach only with T type of protein. G can attach only with C. Now, there are different types of combinations of this ATCG arrangement. Okay. Now, genome sequencing, what they will do is that they will extract this DNA from number of individuals, from 20,000 individuals, and they will obtain the sequence in which these ATCG sequences are arranged. So, after obtaining that information, they will look at what are the anomalies, what are the important sequences which is responsible for certain features. For example, they will look at which feature is responsible for this particular birth defect. So, for example, if a child has autistic capabilities, they will look at which sequence is responsible for this autism. If a particular person has cancer, they will look at which sequence is responsible for this particular cancer. Clear? That's how genome sequencing works. Now, this genome sequencing is being used for the first human genome project of India. Okay. Now, this particular initiative is being implemented by Department of Biotechnology under Ministry of Science and Technology. Now, what is the significance of this particular genome sequencing? Now, in healthcare department, for new advancements in medical science like predictive diagnosis and precision medicine, genomic information and disease management, genome sequences can play a very crucial role. Okay. For a number of diseases like Alzheimer's, cancer, even before these diseases attack a particular person, we can predict this disease. So, if we are predicting these diseases before they are being attacked to a particular person, we can prevent these particular diseases very effectively. Through genome sequencing methodology, researchers and clinicians can easily detect the diseases related to particular genetic disorder. So, if a person has a particular genetic disorder, that genetic disorder can be solved effectively. Yeah? As well as genetic screening. The genome project will lead to improved techniques of genetic screening for diseases prior to birth. So even before a mother is giving birth to a particular child, we can effectively determine which are all the defects in this particular genome sequencing. Also, evolution purpose. Genome project may answer the question regarding the evolution of comparing human DNA with primate DNA. So, by sequencing our genetic material, we can compare our gene with primate DNA. This DNA with monkeys as well as chimpanzees, so that we can analyze the evolution of human DNA itself. Now, even though there are a lot of advantages with respect to genome sequences, there are a lot of concerns as well. Now, what are the concerns with respect to genome sequences? The first concern with respect to genome sequencing is discrimination. Now, discrimination based on genotype is possible as a consequence of genome sequencing. For example, employers may obtain the genetic information of employees prior to hiring them. For certain employees is shown to be genetically susceptible to certain undesirable traits for his workforce, they may be discriminated against their genotype. For example, the example that I have provided is if you want to go to a particular job, now if that employer has data to your particular genome sequencing, now even before you attend the interview itself, they will analyze what type of characters you will have, what type of diseases are you susceptible to. So based on this information, there is a possibility that employers can discriminate you against. Okay? So that's one concern with respect to genome sequencing. Now the next one is ownership and control. Apart from the issue of privacy and confidentiality, the question of ownership and control of genetic information becomes very critical. Now, if employers can easily access your genetic information, there is no privacy at all, right? So there should be an issue of who gets to own this particular information. Yeah. If this information is getting stored in public data bank, everyone can access this information. So that discrimination becomes widespread based on genetic sequencing. So to prevent this from happening, the ownership issue has to be addressed before time, before itself. Also, fair use of genetic data for insurance, employment, criminal justice, education, adoption, military. This fair use of genetic data is very essential. Now, let's take an example in insurance sector. Now, what happens in insurance sector? For example, if you are taking accidental insurance, in this accidental issue insurance, you are taking insurance saying that if a supposed accident happens to you, this insurance company will pay certain amount of money to your family. Now, insurance company, if they have access to particular genetic data, what can they do? They can determine which persons are more susceptible to particular diseases, which persons are more susceptible to accidents. All these things they can determine. Based on that, they can vary the rates of their insurance offerings. Clear? So there is a discrimination here itself based on genetic data. So that to prevent that from happening, we should employ a practice called as fair use of genetic data. So these are the concerns with respect to use of genome sequencing. I hope everything was clear to you. If you have any doubts with respect to this particular topic, you can ask in the comment sections below. Not only that, if you have any doubts with regards to any current affairs topics, just drop in the comment section below. I'll try to answer those doubts. So that's it with regards to this particular topic. Let's take a look at this particular question. Now, what does this question ask about? The first statement talks about India's first human genome mapping project will be implemented by the Department of Science and Technology. Is this statement correct or not? This statement is correct. Now, the project involves scanning of 20,000 Indian genomes in order to develop diagnostic tests and effective therapies for treating diseases such as cancer. Is this statement correct? Yes, that's the main objective of genome sequencing. Now, let's take a look at the third statement. According to epidemiological transition level concept, cancer patients started to decrease in India with an increasing of life expectancy. What is the meaning of this? Cancer patients started decreasing as India's life expectancy started to increase. Now, this statement is wrong because even though life expectancy in India is increasing, cancer is also increasing in India. Why? Because cancer is a form of non-communicable diseases and it's also a form of lifestyle disease. Clear? So, as people becomes accustomed to more modern lifestyle, incidence of cancer will increase because our food habits as well as our daily habits are becoming more accustomed towards modern lifestyle. Because of that, cancer's incidence is increasing among Indians, even though our life expectancy is also increasing. So now, what is the answer for this particular question? The answer is C, 1 and 2 only. Because the third statement is wrong, because cancer rate, even though our life expectancy is increasing throughout, cancer rate is also increasing in India. Clear? Now that's it with regards to that this today's video. If you have any doubts, ask in the comment section and don't forget to subscribe to Unacademy's CSE English YouTube channel. And if you have any doubts, just ask in the comment section. Clear? And don't forget to use my code Aravind V if you are subscribing to Unacademy subscription platform. Thank you.